What would you do if a racist cop shoved you to the ground, insulted your identity, and pulled a gun on you, without knowing you're one of the highest-ranking FBI agents in the country? Yeah. This one's gonna leave you speechless, but hold up, before we dive in, let me ask you something. Have you ever been underestimated just because of how you look, where you're from, or the color of your skin? Drop your story in the comments, I read every single one. Also, real quick, where in the world are you watching this from, and what time is it right now where you are? I love seeing how far these stories travel. If you're new here, go ahead and hit that like button, smash subscribe, and don't forget to share this with someone who needs to hear it. We tell the kind of stories they don't show on TV, raw, powerful, and real. Now get ready, because this story, when a racist officer doesn't realize he's dealing with an FBI agent, is about to blow your mind. Let's get it. What would you do if a racist cop shoved you to the ground, insulted your identity, and pulled a gun on you, without knowing you're one of the highest-ranking FBI agents in the country? Yeah. This one's gonna leave you speechless, but hold up, before we dive in, let me ask you something. Have you ever been underestimated just because of how you look, where you're from, or the color of your skin? Drop your story in the comments, I read every single one. Also, real quick, where in the world are you watching this from, and what time is it right now where you are? I love seeing how far these stories travel. If you're new here, go ahead and hit that like button, smash subscribe, and don't forget to share this with someone who needs to hear it. We tell the kind of stories they don't show on TV, raw, powerful, and real. Now get ready, because this story, when a racist officer doesn't realize he's dealing with an FBI agent, is about to blow your mind. Let's get it. Blue and red lights flooded the block. The scent of cordite still lingered in the air, mixing with burnt rubber and panic. Civilians huddled near the cafe entrance, whispering to each other, phones clutched tightly, some still recording. Jamal stood firm, breathing steady, Glock holstered. His shirt was torn at the shoulder, coffee stains dried across his chest. He didn't care. His eyes were locked on Officer Calloway, who hadn't moved an inch from behind the mailbox. Kincaid hovered awkwardly nearby, clearly unsure of what to do next. Special Agent Ramirez turned to Jamal. "We've got a mess on our hands, brother. Not just the robbery, but this little incident before it. You want to press charges?" Jamal's lips pressed into a hard line. "I want every second of what happened documented. Body cam footage, witness statements, phone recordings. Everything." "We're on it," Ramirez replied. "Montgomery PD Internal Affairs is en route. So is the U.S. Attorney." A few feet away, Calloway finally found the nerve to speak. "Look, I didn't know who he was." You thought what?" Jamal turned toward him, voice low but searing. "That I was just some random black man in the wrong neighborhood. You slammed me, cuffed me, called me boy, and accused me of being armed. And all without cause." "I was following protocol," Calloway stammered. "You were following your bias," Jamal snapped. The tension snapped like a whip in the air. Everyone heard it. Even Kincaid lowered his eyes. Suddenly, a black SUV with tinted windows rolled up slowly. Out stepped a sharp-looking woman in a navy pantsuit. Short-cropped hair, heels clicking with authority. She flashed a badge. "Assistant U.S. Attorney Dana Griffin," she announced. "I'm here to speak with Special Agent Jamal Cross and assess the situation." Ramirez motioned her over. "Perfect timing. Agent Cross, meet AUSA Griffin. She's already been briefed on the shooting. Now she needs to know how you got in cuffs before bullets even started flying." Griffin extended her hand to Jamal. "Agent Cross. I've heard about your work. Didn't expect to meet you under these circumstances." Jamal shook her hand. "Didn't expect to be in them, ma'am." They stepped a few feet away from the scene for privacy. Ramirez stayed close by. Griffin listened attentively as Jamal recounted everything, from sipping his coffee to being slammed against the lamppost. Her expression hardened with every detail. "You didn't identify yourself immediately?" "No," Jamal replied. "I was off duty. I didn't think I needed to flash credentials just to exist on a sidewalk." Griffin nodded. "Understood. And from what I've gathered, the officer had no legitimate cause to detain you?" "None." She paused for a beat, then turned to Ramirez. "I want every single piece of footage secured. Officer Calloway and his partner are not to leave this scene. We'll be treating this as an official civil rights investigation." And until this is resolved, both officers are to be placed on administrative leave. Ramirez gave a slight grin. You got it. At that moment, dispatch crackled over a police radio, shots fired at 8th and Jefferson. Officers requesting backup. Possible hostage situation in progress. Jamal's head turned sharply. That's just 4 blocks from here. Looks like Montgomery's heating up today, Ramirez muttered. Griffin gave a nod. Go. Handle it. We'll clean up here. Without hesitation, Jamal jogged toward the FBI Suburban. He threw open the door, retrieved his tactical vest and extra mags, and climbed into the passenger seat. Ramirez jumped behind the wheel. Another agent, Lopez, slid into the back. Let's roll, Jamal ordered. The Suburban peeled off, sirens silent, lights flashing. As they raced through intersections, pedestrians scrambled aside, cars swerved to make room. Jamal loaded his weapon calmly, eyes scanning every passing alley, every rooftop. Dispatch said hostage, Ramirez said. You think it's connected to the earlier shooting? Possibly, Jamal replied. Could be retaliation. Could be a crew trying to take advantage of the chaos. Either way, we shut it down. They pulled up to the scene within 2 minutes. An armored police vehicle sat at an angle near a liquor store. Officers crouched behind it, weapons aimed at a nearby bank where 2 masked suspects were holding 5 civilians at gunpoint. One of the hostages was bleeding from a leg wound, the blood pooling near the glass entrance. Jamal stepped out, assessing the scene instantly. Sniper team in place. He asked. Not yet, replied a local officer. SWAT's en route but caught in traffic. We don't have time for that, Ramirez said. Jamal, what's the move? Jamal crouched behind a barricade, studying the layout. He noticed an alley on the right side of the building, narrow, dark, likely leading to a rear service entrance. I'll flank from the alley. Lopez, cover my 6. Ramirez, keep eyes on the front. If they move the hostages, we engage. Copy that, they echoed. Jamal slipped through the alley with Lopez close behind. The rear door of the bank had a keypad, no doubt locked, but Jamal retrieved a small breaching tool from his vest and carefully pried it open. It creaked slightly but held. Inside, they moved like shadows. Jamal signaled Lopez to hold position while he slid up to the door leading into the main lobby. Through a narrow window, he saw both suspects pacing nervously. One was shouting at a hostage who tried to move. The other, tall, jittery, stood too close to the injured woman. Finger twitching on the trigger, Jamal exhaled slowly. Then, crash, a loud bang echoed from the front. Ramirez had thrown a distraction device, drawing attention. Jamal moved. He burst through the door like a storm, gun raised. FBI. Drop it now. The suspects spun, startled. One raised his weapon. Jamal fired once, center mass. The man dropped, the second turned toward the hostages. Don't do it. Jamal warned. Too late. He grabbed the injured woman, pulling her up as a shield. Don't come any closer or I'll blow her head off. He screamed. Jamal lowered his gun an inch. Let her go. You're surrounded. There's nowhere to run. I'll kill her. I swear. Jamal's eyes flicked to Lopez, who had crept in from behind. A silent nod. Pop. Lopez fired a clean shot through. The gunshot echoed through the bank lobby like thunder. The suspect jerked violently as Lopez's bullet tore through his shoulder, forcing him to release the hostage. She collapsed to the floor, crying in shock but alive. Jamal moved in instantly, kicking the suspect's weapon away and pinning him with a knee to the back. Clear. Jamal shouted. Lopez swept the rest of the room, verifying there were no more threats. One by one, the hostages were led out, trembling but safe. Paramedics rushed in moments later to treat the injured woman. Jamal stood, his breathing steady despite the chaos. His vest was scuffed, sweat clinging to his brow, but his focus never wavered. You all right? Lopez asked. I'm good, Jamal replied, eyes narrowing at the wounded suspect now groaning on the floor. Get him cuffed. Ramirez should be bringing the van around soon. Outside, the scene was a whirlwind of flashing lights and murmurs. Media vans were starting to gather, reporters setting up with the urgency of vultures circling a fresh kill. Cameras were already rolling. The moment Jamal stepped out with the hostage clinging to his arm, the clicks and flashes intensified. is that the same agent from earlier? Someone whispered near the cordon. Yeah, another answered. They said he was cuffed by one of our own before this all went down. As Jamal loaded the suspect into the FBI vehicle, Ramirez walked over, nodding. Hell of a takedown, he said. The hostage is gonna make it. They're calling it a textbook operation. Jamal's gaze drifted past Ramirez to the reporters pointing in his direction. You think this'll make a dent in what happened earlier? He asked bitterly. Ramirez frowned. Might not erase it, but it'll sure make people think twice before assuming things next time. The moment was short-lived. A patrol car pulled up, and out stepped Officer Calloway again, still on the scene, still in uniform. His eyes locked with Jamal's, but this time there was no arrogance in them. Just hesitation. And fear. The crowd noticed. That's the one who cuffed him earlier. Someone pointed out, you seein' this? He got saved by the guy he racially profiled. Calloway's face reddened. He tried to melt into the background, but it was too late. Griffin arrived seconds later, striding through the chaos with purpose. Agent Cross, she called, waving him over. Jamal met her near the command vehicle. I've reviewed the body cam footage, she began. There's no justification for the stop. No probable cause. The use of force was excessive and unprovoked. Internal Affairs? Jamal asked. They've opened a formal inquiry. Officer Calloway and Kincaid are both suspended pending investigation. A smirk almost touched Jamal's lips. Almost. But it vanished as fast as it came. He wasn't here for revenge, he wanted accountability. Suddenly, Griffin's phone buzzed. She stepped away to answer it, her face darkening with each second. When she returned, her tone shifted. There's more, she said quietly. I just received word from the Justice Department. They want a deeper look into Montgomery PD's record, complaints, use of force data, racial disparities. Seems today's events lit a fire. Jamal folded his arms. It's about time. I'm authorizing a task force. You'll lead it, Griffin added. Effective immediately. Jamal raised an eyebrow. You serious? I wouldn't offer if I wasn't. You've got the training, the record, and now you've got the spotlight. We clean this department from the inside out. Jamal exhaled slowly. Then let's start with Calloway. Griffin nodded. Already in motion. By the time the FBI convoy left the scene, the sun had dipped behind the rooftops. But the night was just beginning. Back at FBI Montgomery Field Office, Jamal sat in the operations center, the lights dimmed, screens flickering with live data. He reviewed case files and disciplinary records tied to Calloway and others in the precinct. What he found made his jaw clench. 14 use of force incidents in 2 years, Lopez read over his shoulder. 9 involving unarmed black men. 3 settled out of court. 1 still pending. And every time. Internal Affairs called it justified. Jamal growled. Ramirez entered with coffee. Looks like we're opening a can of worms, brother. No. We're exposing a nest of vipers, Jamal corrected. Suddenly, a knock at the glass wall broke their focus. A young black woman in a hoodie and jeans stood there hesitantly. Agent Cross? She asked when he opened the door. I'm Shayla Watkins. You don't know me, but I saw what happened today. You cuffed. Then saving those people at the bank. You don't know how much that meant to folks like me. Jamal offered a tired but genuine smile. I appreciate that. You holding up okay? She nodded. I'm just tired of always watching our people be treated like suspects. You showed them we're not helpless. Jamal glanced at Ramirez and Lopez, then back at Shayla. We're just getting started. She handed him a flash drive. This has video from my phone. It caught everything, the stop, the assault, everything they said to you. You can use it. He accepted it solemnly. Thank you. It's going to help. Shayla hesitated at the door. Just don't stop. Not now. I won't, Jamal assured her. As she left, the team returned to work, fire lit in their chests. Files stacked high. Screens scrolled non-stop. The task force was real. The mission was clear, and Montgomery PD had no idea the storm coming its way. Night fell hard over Montgomery, but inside the FBI field office, Agent Jamal Cross was just heating up. The fluorescent lights buzzed above as he loaded Shayla Watkins' flash drive into the secure system. He glanced at Lopez and Ramirez, who flanked him on either side in the tech suite. The room's stillness was punctuated only by the hum of servers and the occasional click of keys. The video played. "Step out of the car," Officer Calloway barked on screen. Jamal watched himself comply, hands visible, calm but annoyed. Then came the shove. The slurs. The cuffs. The smirk on Calloway's face. Lopez leaned forward, visibly tense. "Damn. That's brutal. And clear as day." Ramirez shook his head. They never expected someone to record this from a different angle. "This is gold, Jamal." "I know," Jamal said, his jaw tight. "It's not just about clearing my name. It's about exposing this entire culture of abuse." Lopez typed rapidly, extracting the video and prepping it for submission to Internal Affairs and federal oversight. They were building a case now, fast, ironclad, and aimed straight at the heart of Montgomery PD's rot. Suddenly, the office's emergency phone line rang. Ramirez answered. "Agent Ramirez." A pause, then his eyebrows rose. "You're kidding me. Send it to our screens." He turned to Jamal. "You're not gonna believe this. There's another situation. Armed standoff, guess where?" "Let me guess," Jamal muttered. "Precinct 6. Calloway's old post." Lopez cursed under her breath. "What now?" The screen flipped to live drone footage. A standoff was unfolding in the streets. Several officers had guns drawn behind squad cars, aiming at a young black man on his porch holding what looked like a cell phone. A crowd was gathering, shouting for the police to stand down. Jamal's stomach turned. "They're about to shoot an unarmed man," he growled. Again. Without hesitation, he grabbed his vest and sidearm. "We're rolling out." Moments later, Jamal's black SUV tore through Montgomery's downtown, red and blue strobes cutting through the night. Ramirez was driving, Lopez in the back monitoring updates through a live tablet feed. "They're claiming he had a weapon," she reported. "But there's no confirmation. No shots fired. The crowd's filming everything. This is about to explode." Jamal grabbed his radio. "Dispatch, this is Special Agent Jamal Cross of the FBI. I am en route to the scene on Union Street. Do not engage the suspect. I repeat, stand down until we arrive." Silence for a moment, then a voice crackled through. "Negative. This is MPD command. You're not authorized to give orders on this frequency." Jamal smirked. "Watch me." 2 blocks away, officers still had the young man pinned in their sights. He stood frozen, arms up, a phone in one hand and a terrified look on his face. Jamal jumped from the SUV before it even stopped moving. "FBI. Stand down now," he shouted, flashing his badge as he marched straight into the line of fire. "Agent Cross, you're interfering with a local matter." One sergeant yelled. "No," Jamal barked, "I'm stopping a murder from happening. This man is unarmed." He stepped in front of the suspect, placing himself between him and the officer's weapons. "Drop your weapons, now." The officers hesitated. Then slowly, one by one, they lowered their rifles. Ramirez and Lopez rushed to his side, spreading out and securing the area. The crowd cheered, capturing every moment on their phones. Jamal turned to the man, who was visibly shaking. "You're safe now," Jamal said. "What's your name?" "T. Tyrell," the man stammered. I was just recording them. They told me to shut up or they'd shoot." "Not today," Jamal said, putting a steadying hand on his shoulder. As Tyrell was led to safety, Jamal turned back to the officers. "You're all on notice. This department is under federal review. Every incident, every body cam, every citizen complaint, we're coming for all of it." The sergeant, red-faced, scowled. "You can't just walk in and take over." "I just did," Jamal said. "And if you've got a problem with that, take it up with the U.S. Attorney's Office." He didn't wait for a reply. Back in the SUV, Lopez was already uploading the latest footage to their growing file. "This just strengthened our case tenfold." Ramirez added, "The DOJ liaison will love this. This wasn't just a save, it was a spotlight on how reckless these officers have become." Jamal sighed, rubbing his eyes. We're winning battles. But the war's just starting. Later that night, inside FBI Montgomery HQ, Griffin entered with a folder. We've secured a judge to authorize a preliminary sweep of Precinct 6, she announced. And I've got names. Officers with repeated complaints. Records sealed or ignored. One of them. Calloway's partner, Kincaid. Jamal opened the file and scanned it. He's been involved in 3 fatal shootings. All ruled justified. No discipline. No review. Exactly, Griffin said. But with your footage, tonight's incident, and public pressure mounting, we can raid his home, seize electronics, search the precinct. Build the foundation for criminal charges. Jamal nodded. Then let's bring the hammer down. Just then, a phone buzzed on the desk. Jamal answered, Agent Cross. A voice crackled. You think you're making a difference? You're just stirring up trouble. Who is this? Jamal asked, eyes narrowing. You'll find out, the voice replied. Just know, you're not welcome in this town. Click, the line went dead. Ramirez stared at him. Threat? Sounds like it, Jamal replied calmly. But it just proves we're hitting nerves. Griffin agreed. We press harder. Turn up the heat. Calloway and his boys won't know what hit them. The sun rose behind a slate of thick clouds, casting a dull gray light over Montgomery. But inside FBI Montgomery HQ, the storm was just beginning. Agent Jamal Cross stood suited up in full tactical gear, a Kevlar vest strapped over his chest, his Glock holstered, and a pair of black gloves clutched in his hands. His team moved quickly and efficiently around him. Today wasn't for watching. It was for action, bodycams rolling. He asked, all units confirmed, Lopez responded. She pulled a black balaclava over her head and gave a sharp nod. Warrants approved. We're greenlit. They were executing synchronized raids on 3 targets, Officer Kincaid's residence, Calloway's private locker at Precinct 6. And a backroom storage facility registered under a shell company connected to a disgraced former cop. Each location, Jamal suspected, held pieces of the larger corruption puzzle. This was their shot to crush it. As the convoy rolled through the sleeping city, tension was razor-sharp inside the FBI's lead vehicle. Ramirez drove with precision, weaving through traffic like a ghost. Jamal reviewed the plan one final time. Remember, he said to his team, Calloway isn't stupid. He's a racist and a thug, but he's not reckless when it comes to his secrets. He's buried something. Our job is to unearth it. They split at the first checkpoint. Jamal's team continued toward Kincaid's house. A ranch-style home surrounded by high fences and surveillance cameras. The SUV skidded to a halt. Move, move, move. Jamal barked as they burst through the front gate. Ramirez and 2 agents circled the rear while Jamal and Lopez hit the front door with a battering ram. Boom, the door shattered inward. FBI. Search warrant. Kincaid staggered from the hallway, still in a t-shirt and shorts, eyes wide with panic. His hand darted toward the nightstand. Don't. Jamal snapped, gun drawn. Kincaid froze. Ramirez barreled in through the back and tackled him to the floor, cuffing his hands behind his back. You think you're untouchable, huh? Kincaid spat. Feds don't run this town. Wrong again, Jamal said coldly. You're done. While agents secured the scene, Lopez and another agent tore through the house. In the basement, they found a locked safe. Got something, Lopez called out. Jamal crouched beside her and examined the keypad. We'll crack it back at HQ. Within minutes, the safe was loaded into a vehicle. Kincaid was in custody, and Jamal's team peeled off toward the precinct. At Precinct 6, the atmosphere was tense. Uniformed officers watched silently as FBI agents marched through the main hallway. A few exchanged nervous glances, others whispered under their breath. But nobody dared interfere. Jamal moved swiftly to Calloway's locker, the warrant in his hand. He yanked it open and immediately noticed something odd. There were 2 identical duffel bags. One was empty. The other had a false bottom. He pulled it apart. Inside was a flash drive. Several wads of cash. And photographs. Jamal's blood ran cold as he sifted through them, images of victims. Civilian black men. One was the teen Tyrell from the standoff. Another was a man from a previous brutality case. Calloway's been keeping trophies, Lopez muttered. Like a serial predator. Jamal zipped the bag up. This goes straight to the DOJ. Meanwhile, the third team stormed the off-site storage facility. The unit was tucked behind a warehouse and camouflaged under the business name Mills Equipment Rental. It took just 15 minutes to force entry. Inside were shelves of boxes, unmarked evidence bags, and dozens of unregistered firearms. A stolen police laptop glowed faintly from the corner, logged into an MPD database under a forged login. They'd found the motherlode. Jamal's phone buzzed. "We've secured the third site," the field commander reported. "And you won't believe what we found: audio files. Hundreds of hours. Wiretaps. It looks like Calloway and others were recording illegal stops, laughing about them, even betting on how far they could push people before they cracked." Jamal clenched his jaw. "Get that secured immediately." Back at HQ, Kincaid sat slumped in the interrogation room. Arms crossed, a bloody tissue pressed to his split lip from when Ramirez tackled him. Jamal entered with Lopez and sat across from him. "You're sitting on a lot of secrets, officer," Jamal said. "I want a lawyer." "That's fine. But you'll be waiting in federal holding while we process what we found in your safe." Kincaid's eyes flickered. "You opened it?" "Not yet," Lopez replied. "But we will. And once we do, everything you've been covering up, every bribe, every illegal stop, every planted weapon, is going to be laid out in court." Kincaid sneered. "You think you're going to clean up Montgomery? The city doesn't want change. You're wasting your time." Jamal leaned in. "We're not here for popularity. We're here for justice." He stood and turned to leave, but paused at the door. "Oh, and Kincaid," he added, "Calloway's next." Hours later, Jamal stood in the tech room as the safe from Kincaid's basement was opened. Inside, more cash. Photos. A USB drive labeled insurance. Lopez popped it in, videos loaded. Jamal leaned forward. It was Calloway, bragging during poker nights, drunk, slurring his speech, ranting about cleaning up the streets. His racism was unfiltered, grotesque, and shockingly casual. This is our key," Lopez said. "We can go public. We can end them." Jamal stared at the screen, jaw tight. "No," he said. "Not yet. First, we bring Calloway in." "But how?" Ramirez asked. "He's gone dark. We don't need to find him," Jamal replied. "He'll come to us." At that moment, Jamal's phone buzzed again. "Unknown number," he answered. "Agent Cross." Calloway's voice rasped through the line. "You're making a big mistake." "No," Jamal said. "You did, when you thought I'd let this go." A pause. Then a low chuckle. "You have no idea who I'm connected to." "I'm not interested in who you know," Jamal replied. "Only in what you've done." Calloway's voice dropped cold. "You want me? Come alone. Meet me at Denson Quarry. Midnight." Click. Jamal stared at the phone. "Looks like he's ready to make a move," he said. "Let's prepare for war." The night air hung heavy over Denson Quarry. Clouds crawled across the moon, cloaking the old excavation site in patches of darkness. Crumbled stone, twisted rebar, and rusted machinery painted the place like a forgotten graveyard. It was the perfect location for a setup, and Agent Jamal Cross knew it. He crouched beside the hood of his parked SUV 100 feet from the edge of the quarry, adjusting his earpiece and checking his Glock. Though Calloway had told him to come alone, Jamal wasn't foolish. 2 backup teams were stationed in sniper nests above the quarry ridge, equipped with long-range scopes and infrared visuals. Another FBI squad sat in silence 3 blocks out, ready to roll in if things got hot. "Visuals clear," Lopez's voice came through his earpiece. "No movement yet. Stay sharp." Jamal stepped into the open and walked toward the center of the site where a single halogen lamp buzzed overhead, casting a cone of orange light on cracked concrete. A figure stepped out of the shadows. Calloway. He wore no uniform now, just a leather jacket and jeans, a heavy beard shadowing his jaw, but the smugness remained. His right hand stayed tucked in his pocket, likely holding a weapon. "You really came alone," he said with a mocking smile. "I came to give you one last chance," Jamal replied. "Turn yourself in. Make this easier on yourself." Calloway laughed, low and bitter. "Easier? You think this is about me? You think if you take me down, the system crumbles? I'm a cog, Cross. Replaceable. You can't fight a system built to protect itself. Jamal narrowed his eyes. That's the difference between us. I'm not afraid to try. Calloway's smirk twisted. You really want to do this now? Suddenly, the air crackled with tension. From behind a cement mixer, 3 armed men stepped into view. Tactical vests, rifles, dark visors covering their faces. Mercenaries, not local cops, Lopez's voice hissed in Jamal's ear. We've got movement. 3 unknowns. Not PD. You want us to engage? Hold position, Jamal muttered under his breath, keeping his eyes on Calloway. Let's see where this goes. Calloway took a step forward. His confidence swelling. You're brave, Cross. I'll give you that. But this ends tonight. Jamal's response was lightning quick. His right hand drew his Glock and fired. One of the armed men collapsed, bullet straight through the visor. Engage. Jamal shouted as he dove behind a concrete block. Gunfire erupted like a thunderstorm. The quarry lit up with muzzle flashes as sniper fire rained from the ridge. Lopez's team opened fire with precision, dropping a second Merc within seconds. The third retreated behind a bulldozer, spraying bullets blindly. Jamal rolled across gravel and fired again, his shot clipping the third assailant's leg. The man screamed and crumpled, gun sliding from his hand. Calloway ducked and sprinted toward a rusted pickup parked near the quarry's edge. Target is fleeing. Lopez shouted. He's on the move. Jamal jumped to his feet and sprinted after him. Bullets zipped past his ear as backup agents converged from the shadows. Ramirez tackled the wounded mercenary while Lopez moved to secure the others. But Jamal had one focus. Calloway, the disgraced officer, jumped into the truck and fumbled with the keys. Jamal reached the side door and yanked it open. Calloway swung with a crowbar, barely missing Jamal's head. The agent ducked and punched hard, his fist crashing into Calloway's jaw. The man howled in pain, dropping the crowbar. Jamal reached across and ripped him from the driver's seat. Slamming him onto the gravel, blood streamed from Calloway's mouth as he tried to reach for the backup pistol strapped to his ankle. Jamal stomped down on his wrist. Game over. The sirens howled in the distance as more FBI units swarmed in. Agents poured into the quarry, weapons drawn, securing the site. Ramirez jogged over, breathless. You good? Yeah, Jamal said, dragging Calloway to his feet and slapping on a pair of cuffs. He tried to run. Calloway spat on the ground. This won't stick. You'll never make it past the shield. We'll see about that, Jamal said, shoving him toward a waiting vehicle. Hours later, in a sealed interrogation room at FBI HQ, Calloway sat in chains. Bruised and silent. The swagger was gone, replaced by a growing realization that the empire he'd built was crumbling. Jamal entered the room, holding a tablet. You know what we found in that storage unit? He said calmly. Files. Audio. Weapons. Paper trails that lead back to you. But you know what's worse? He tapped the screen, and a video began to play. Calloway, midrant, talking about orchestrating assaults, planting drugs, and bragging about his connections inside the mayor's office. Calloway's face went pale. You're bluffing, he whispered. No, Jamal said. I'm offering you a deal. Talk now, and maybe we reduce the charges. Calloway hesitated. You think I'm the only one? You take me down. 5 more will rise. Then we'll take them too, Jamal said coldly. Just then, Lopez entered, holding a folder. We got something from the encrypted files, she said. Names. Payments. Internal memos. This runs deep. Jamal turned to Calloway. You better start talking. Because next, we're knocking on the mayor's door. That night, as Jamal stared at the evidence board in the FBI's war room, his eyes drifted across the dozens of faces connected to the corruption, judges, prosecutors, officers, even a few state officials. The dominoes had begun to fall, but the battle wasn't over, not yet. 3 days later, Agent Jamal Cross stood before the U.S. District Court in downtown Washington, D.C. The courthouse loomed tall and solemn, its granite walls cold and imposing under a gray sky. The flag flapped in the wind, and reporters huddled near the steps, swarming anyone with a badge or a subpoena. The pressure was mounting, and so were the stakes. Inside, in courtroom 9B, the crowd buzzed. The tension was electric. This wasn't just a standard arraignment, it was a spectacle. Former officer Charles Calloway, now in federal custody, was being formally indicted on a mountain of federal charges: obstruction of justice, racketeering, conspiracy, civil rights violations, and attempted murder of a federal officer. The courtroom was packed: agents, attorneys, journalists, and even protesters in the back holding signs that read "Justice for All" and "End Racist Policing." Judge Miriam Walters presided over the case with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Jamal stood quietly at the prosecutor's table, reviewing documents with Assistant U.S. Attorney Caroline Miles. "Calloway will fold," she whispered. "He's already talking, but he's holding something back. Something big." Jamal nodded. "Let's break him." Across the aisle, Calloway sat with his defense attorney, an aging man with an expensive suit and smug confidence. The former officer looked beaten, no more arrogance in his posture. No more cocky smirk. His wrists were still red from the handcuffs, and the bruises on his face told the story of his failed escape. "Court is now in session," the bailiff called. Everyone rose as Judge Walters entered. "This court recognizes the United States versus Charles Calloway," the judge began. "The charges before this court are severe, and the evidence appears substantial. Mr. Calloway, how do you plead?" His lawyer leaned in and whispered something. Calloway glanced at Jamal, and their eyes locked. "One last time, not guilty," he finally said. A wave of murmurs rippled through the courtroom. "Very well," the judge said. "The trial date will be set, but the defendant is to remain in federal custody." As court adjourned, Jamal slipped into the hallway, his thoughts already ahead. The fight wasn't just about Calloway, it was the entire network. The people who supported him. The ones who looked the other way. He needed more. "Agent Cross," a voice called behind him. It was Caroline, clutching a brown envelope. "We just got a decrypted document from the raid." Jamal opened it, scanning the lines. His jaw clenched. "Judge Haskins?" She nodded. Calloway funneled payments to Haskins, tens of thousands. In return, Haskins dismissed dozens of misconduct cases, all involving Calloway's unit. "This runs deeper than we thought. And now we have proof." Hours later, back at the Bureau's field office. Jamal paced before a digital map on the war room screen. Dozens of red markers dotted the map, each one a point in the corruption web. Photos, receipts, video logs, and wiretaps sprawled across the board like veins, but one name pulsed in the center now: Judge Richard Haskins. Lopez stood nearby, reviewing financial transactions. "This guy's untouchable," she said. "He's got ties to state senators, big money, real estate deals with fake names. The feds tried sniffing around last year but came up empty." Jamal exhaled, then stepped toward the board. "Then we give him something he can't ignore." He turned to Ramirez. "Get me eyes on Haskins, phones, movement, meetings. I want to know where he eats. Who he talks to, when he takes out his trash. Let's see what's hiding in his closet." By midnight, surveillance was live. Haskins's mansion in Northern Virginia was under watch. Unmarked vans rolled quietly by. Drones hovered at a distance. Lopez intercepted encrypted phone calls, while Jamal monitored footage from a nearby safe house. At 2:17 a.m., the break came. A black Mercedes pulled into the judge's gated driveway. Out stepped two men in dark suits, one of them carrying a briefcase. Facial recognition lit up instantly. One of the men was a known lobbyist linked to multiple police union bribes. "Got him," Lopez said. "We've got a meeting off the books." Ramirez leaned forward. "We can't move yet. We need the drop." They waited. 10 minutes. 15. 30, then, the man exited the house, without the briefcase. "Transaction complete," Jamal said. "Prepare a warrant." The next morning, just as Judge Haskins finished breakfast on his garden patio, 10 black SUVs swarmed the property. Jamal stepped out first, FBI badge gleaming. The judge stepped back, startled. "Agent Cross. What is the meaning of this?" "You're under arrest," Jamal said, reading the charges. "Bribery. Conspiracy. Obstruction. Aiding a known felon. This is outrageous." Haskins barked. "I'm a sitting judge." "Not anymore." As agents moved in, Haskins struggled briefly, shouting about lawyers, immunity, and political connections, but Jamal had heard it all before. In seconds, the cuffs were on. Haskins looked down at his wrists, disbelief etched in every wrinkle of his face. "You don't know who you're messing with." Jamal leaned in, voice like steel. "You're about to find out who you've been messing with." Back at HQ, another room filled with evidence, wiretaps, and confession statements, Calloway was now fully cooperating, naming names, handing over locations of off-the-book meetings, secret accounts, and hidden weapon caches. Every word he gave brought another house down. By the time the sun set that evening, federal indictments were being drawn up for 6 more officers. 2 politicians, and 1 district attorney, and Jamal Cross was just getting started. 3 weeks had passed since Judge Haskins was arrested, and the entire city of Washington, D.C., still buzzed with shock. The headlines ran like wildfire: Federal Corruption Network exposed, Dirty Cop Ring crumbles under FBI operation, and top judge indicted in unprecedented federal sting. But the spotlight now burned on Agent Jamal Cross. He was no longer operating in the shadows. He had become the face of a sweeping federal takedown that would be studied in law schools and FBI academies for years to come. The operation, now publicly known as Project Iron Veil, had expanded into 5 other states. Undercover footage, wiretaps, and testimonies from former officers flooded in. Every link traced back to one original source: former officer Charles Calloway, the man who once shoved Jamal against a car, insulted his race, and nearly shot him in cold blood, was now behind bars, singing like a canary. But Jamal wasn't done yet. At 9 a.m. sharp, Agent Cross walked into the U.S. Attorney's office flanked by Caroline Miles, Lopez, and Ramirez. They entered the conference room, where a digital screen displayed a single file: Calloway_confession_redacted.mp4, ready? Caroline asked. Jamal nodded. They pressed play. Calloway's voice filled the room. "The plan was simple," he said on the recording. "Target minorities, falsify charges, stack arrest numbers, and keep the cash flowing through the union and the judges. We were protected. We had people in high places. No one ever questioned it, until him. That black FBI agent." The room fell silent. Caroline paused the video and turned to Jamal. "That's the final nail. His voice. His confession. No spin lawyer can walk around that." Jamal's face was still, calm. But inside, a quiet fire burned. 2 hours later, in federal court, Charles Calloway entered with a team of federal marshals. His orange jumpsuit was a far cry from the smug uniform he used to wear. His once proud eyes were sunken and empty. The courtroom was packed, as it had been since the beginning of this trial, but today was different. Today, the sentence would be handed down. Judge Miriam Walters presided. Her gavel slammed once. "Charles Calloway," she began, "you are guilty on all charges: conspiracy, attempted murder, abuse of authority, obstruction of justice, and knowingly violating the civil rights of U.S. citizens under color of law." Calloway sat expressionless. "This court sentences you to life in federal prison without the possibility of parole." A wave of gasps and murmurs swept the room. But no one clapped. No one cheered. It wasn't a victory. It was justice, long overdue, heavy, and cold. Jamal stood from his seat. He didn't need to say anything. Calloway turned his head slightly as the marshals cuffed him and led him away. Their eyes met one final time. The message was clear: you lost. That evening, Jamal drove across the Potomac, his window down, the spring breeze cutting across his face. He pulled into an old church parking lot in Arlington, Virginia. The church was quiet, the parking lot empty. He stepped out, climbed the stairs, and entered through the side door into a modest community hall. Inside, a group of kids, mostly teenagers, sat in chairs facing an old projector screen. A few adults stood in the back. The crowd hushed when Jamal entered. Pastor Hill nodded from the podium. "This is the man I told you about. The man who took down a network of corrupt officers and didn't fire a single illegal shot. A man of law. A man of justice. Agent Jamal Cross." The room erupted in quiet applause. Jamal stepped up to the mic. "Thank you," he began, voice steady. "You've all heard what happened. And I won't lie, there were times I wanted to quit. Times I was angry. Times I wanted revenge." He looked into the young faces, "but I chose to do it right. Because justice isn't just about punishment, it's about truth. About standing up when no one else will. And about using our power not for ego, but for people." The kids listened intently. One young boy raised his hand. Agent Cross. Weren't you scared? Jamal smiled. Every day. But being brave isn't about not feeling fear. It's about walking through it anyway. He paused, then added, and never letting anyone, no matter their badge or title, tell you that you're less than what you are. Back at FBI headquarters the next morning, Jamal walked into Director Helena Graves' office. She stood from behind her desk and handed him a manila envelope. "What's this?" he asked. "Transfer orders. Field Director, Western Division. LA." Jamal blinked. "Promotion?" "Not just a promotion," she said. "You'll be running your own task force. Internal affairs. Clean cops. The ones who need backup but get ignored." Jamal looked down at the papers, then back at her. "Accepted," Graves added. "We need men like you in charge." He took the envelope. "Let's do it." Later that night, Jamal stood alone on the rooftop of his apartment building, overlooking the city. The Capitol dome glowed in the distance, surrounded by blinking lights and quiet stars. His phone buzzed. It was a text from Lopez. "We did it." Jamal replied, "We're just getting started." As he stood there, wind brushing past, he knew this fight would never be over. There would always be another Calloway. Another Haskins. Another person who thought a badge gave them permission to be cruel, but now, they'd think twice, because sometimes, the man they underestimate, the one they call names, push around, threaten, or try to destroy, is the one holding the key to their downfall. Especially when that man is an FBI agent. Hope you enjoyed this story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves justice-driven action. Drop a comment below and let me know. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more powerful, suspense-filled content.